and I am Yvonne Gamble, your host. I am the CEO of Sanpete Financial Group, which is a venture capital firm, and I'm co-founder of Women Leading Change Now Political Advocacy. This is, can you believe it? This is the United Nations CSW number 66. So that means that we have been doing this for the past 66 years. And our
Wow.
organization, Women Leading Change Now, we always convene at least a good 17 to 20 speakers for you to speak out on what the goal is for that year. Our primary goal this year is goal number 13, climate change. And so the different various women that we bring to you will be speaking on some of those issues and topics as it relates to the industries that they are in. So my esteemed guest that I have is Nkiru Asika today, and she comes to us. She is coming to us from Canada on the continent of North America, and she's going to be telling us about building a brand in the age of climate change. So I'm going to bring her up here in a moment, and we're going to meet her and find out a little bit about her, and then we're going to let her go into her topic. So, Nakuro, it is so happy to have you. So good. I thank you so much for accepting to be a speaker at the UNCSW 66. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, Yvonne. Thank you so much for having me. And greetings to everybody from cold Toronto, Canada. I wish I was back home in
Oh,
Nigeria right now, but I'm in my second home, Canada.
well, okay? What's the weather like in Nigeria right now?
Hot.
Hot. Oh, yeah,
That's what
yeah.
I
Because
need.
you guys are
I need some sun, you know.
okay. And what's the temperature like in Canada today?
It is the opposite. Actually, you know what? Today is not bad. Today is 3 degrees, which is pretty great because last week it was like minus
Oh,
17. So,
oh, okay. Well, I was in Chicago for quite a number of years, and I can remember when it got up to 3 degrees, and we thought we had a heat wave going on. So
yeah,
I do understand.
exactly.
So,
Exactly.
well, with that, I mean, the climate is something else. Climate is a very, um, it's somewhat we have seen climate for so long to come become stable, especially those who are in where they have 4 times of the year it changes.
Mm-hmm.
So they're used
Mm-hmm.
to it. It changes winter to summer to spring to fall, and they're used to those different types of changes. And then there's others who live in different climatic areas where they may get at most two seasons, a rainy
Right.
season
Mm-hmm.
or a hot season, what have you. And so you kind of get used to it's been this way all the time, or it's been this way
Mm-hmm.
for hundreds of years. But truly, climate has been changing, and it changes all along every single year. So,
Yes.
but what we're seeing now is we're seeing the massive change because we're now actually realizing that these massive changes, have taken place, and we're actually seeing it before our eyes. Some of those different things that we read about in history, and we look
Mm-hmm.
at, in settlement places and what have you. But now it's affecting us more so because we're more densely populated than we were in years before as climate change was taking place. So that's why, it is making a difference. But one of the things that Nakuru is, she is an expert on women building authority online and building their brand. So I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
turn the floor over to her and let her give us information on how now with all this that is going on, how do we build a brand in the midst of this climate change era when it's taking up so much of the airwave and bandwidth with what's going on? How do you build your brand during that time? So
Mm-hmm.
I'll turn that over to her, and she'll bring her authority with her, and then that way we will come away from this with supposed with some action items.
Okay, super. Well, thanks again. Thanks very much, Yvonne, and welcome to everyone listening. So, as Yvonne said, my name is Nkiru Asika, and I had a brand called Women Building Authority. And our mission is to take female entrepreneurs from best kept secret to visible authority. And we work with people through uh, digital products, high value events. We do private coaching. And we also have a membership called the Accelerator, which basically supports our members to show up online more consistently, to grow their brands by learning about things like PR, podcasting, social media, content marketing, etc. And we also give them opportunities to get visibility for their brand. We give them multiple platforms that they can use to showcase their expertise and get more visibility on their brand. So yeah, so I'm excited to be here. This is kind of a different kind of a topic. I don't. When Yvonne asked me to speak, I thought to myself, even though climate change obviously impacts me and impacts all of us, it's not something that is top of mind all the time. So it was when I started thinking about it and reading up a little bit, I realized that gosh, it really should be a lot more top of mind than it is. Um, it's not just something to think about when maybe it's World Earth Day and we see some activism on the streets or whatever. I think sometimes we don't realize there's some of the things that we are dealing with or we see communities dealing with every day are directly related to climate change. So, but again, just back to what I do. I always say my personal why is to support women to be more vocal, more visible, and more valued, so they can expand the possibilities for themselves and for all women. So, I work in the industry of online marketing, coaching, and training, but on a macro level, really, I believe my work is about helping to close the gender gap in leadership, in capital, in share of voice, by helping women elevate their profile so they can build bigger brands and businesses. And when we talk about building a brand, sometimes people think about just the visual brand, the logo, the look and feel. All of that is very important. But what is most important really is like the real essence of your brand, your messaging, your positioning, and your ability to establish your authority, especially if you are marketing yourself online. And if you're not marketing yourself online, then you are stunting your own growth. And I think, if anything, the events of the last couple of years should have shown, I think, anybody, if they were not engaged in any kind of online activity before, the events of the last couple of years, I think, would have shown most entrepreneurs that they really need to step up their their online marketing game. And when I talk about authority, brand authority, really, it's about transforming your expertise into influence. It's about creating visibility, because if you're not visible, if no one sees you, they can't know you. They cannot buy from you. You cannot change the world if nobody sees or hears or knows what you do. So visibility is so key. And one thing I find with clients and with women in my community is often that, as women, we tend to shrink back, especially if, like me, you're like a natural introvert. You tend to sort of not be the one that wants to come forward. You don't want to be the, women are afraid of looking braggadocious, or they don't want to, they just don't want to be in front too much. And that tends to hurt us. So you have a lot of brilliant women, but they're not adding to the conversation in their industry. They're not stepping up to take leadership roles. They're just sort of head down, doing the work, hoping the work will speak for them, but the work doesn't speak for you. So you have to speak for you. So that's what we sort of counsel women to do and help give women the tools to do by learning how to use, online marketing to amplify your voice and amplify your message. I don't know if I should pause. I feel like I'm talking. So if you have any questions, you can.
Yes, I do. You said that it's very good if you said that women. You said you made a very good point, and that was the fact that women tend to not want to be out front.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of head down, doing all the work, and tend to
Mm-hmm.
shrink back, and that hurts. That can hurt the brand, as opposed
Absolutely.
to you know, why is that? I mean, why uh, why is that? Not so much that why women do that, but why does that hurt the brand?
Well, it hurts the brand really because especially if you are selling services, even if you're selling products, but especially if your business has anything to do with selling knowledge or advice or expertise. So you're a consultant, you're a coach, you're a financial planner, you're a lawyer, whatever it is, you're selling services. So you're really selling yourself. You know, if you are not visible, that you're strangling your business. It's not like selling, I don't know, a widget where people can look at the widget and compare, and you're selling yourself. It's intangible. And there's a saying that people don't buy coaching, they buy coaches. So people don't buy consulting, they buy the consultant. People want to work with Yvonne, they don't just want to work with Sam Pete, right? So
Mhm.
if Yvonne is invisible, if Yvonne never shows up, if Yvonne has no brand, if no one knows anything about Yvonne, she's gonna be,
How then?
hurting her
Okay,
business.
I get that.
Yeah.
How then do you actually build that corporation? You
Mm-hmm.
know, Certainly IBM, we buy from IBM, we
Mm-hmm.
buy from Microsoft. You know,
Yes.
we did, and really this whole ideology where we had that singular person that we actually look at,
Mm-hmm.
as kind of carrying the brand, but it's truly we're not buying Teslas because of Elon Musk.
Oh, but look at the personal brand of Elon Musk,
Right.
and think about the value of the personal brand of Elon Musk, and think
And I
about why he puts himself forward like that.
I see that, and
Mm.
I see that that looks like that's something that actually came into the marketplace just say in the last 40 years, because
Mm-hmm.
basically, like I said, IBM, who
Mm-hmm.
AT&T, we don't buy, there's no person there
Mm-hmm.
that we're looking for to kind of show up. We look at ads at AT&T all day long, and
Mm-hmm.
every NASA, and we're not looking for that one person. There is a person, who is the head over NASA, and most people couldn't even tell you. Person walked out
Mm-hmm.
the room, shake your hand, and you wouldn't know who that was. You know?
Sure.
So, um, I had the opportunity. I say that because I had the embarrassing opportunity to meet the
Mm-hmm.
head over. I stepped on the man's toes and was like, "Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry," and I kept going. And then I get into the meeting, and this is the man on stage, and he said, I want the lady who stepped on my toes to come up front. I was like, oh my god, oh my god, I was never so embarrassed in my life, because I should have known. I knew who he was. I knew his. But when you see somebody face to face, I really wasn't paying attention
Right.
to who this was.
Right.
But my thought was that wasn't going to make me. That was not truly going to make it break whether or not I was going to do business with NASA.
Right. Right.
So
Right.
this is what I'm thinking, that um that maybe class, course, or information book or
Mm-hmm.
whatever
Mm-hmm.
needs to come out, as to because a lot of women, what they're trying to do, I think, in a sense, not all, but in a sense, some are trying to build a large corporation, you
Sure.
know, and
But
so
even if
therefore
you're,
they're thinking
mhm,
there may be that measure of them who are thinking that how do I make that transition to say this is a large corporation and this is not just simply a singular person's entity. I understand, like you said, if you're a
mhm,
consultant or a coach, then it's generally you, and then you have your team doing all the background work.
mhm,
But
mhm,
like in my, and the reason I say this with market assurance is because, yes, my company, I'm a financial company.
mhm,
It's not just, Yvonne, and most of the work is not done by me. And
mhm.
I need my sales reps, my affiliates. They're the ones that need, because they're the ones that's making, having those meetings, with clients and building up those clientels. And
Sure.
so it's saying, Pete, that we are, that's out there. And I don't want
Yes.
to think singularly that, every decision or everything or every negotiation, I should say, for me, for our
It's
business,
coming from you. Yes. No,
coming
no,
from
no.
me.
I totally get you. But it's the same thing. It's not even so much about whether you are an individual business or you are a corporation. The idea of brand authority still remains. Um, the idea of positioning your brand, both whether it's your corporate brand or your entrepreneur brand, as a market leader, positioning your putting out the type of, or building trying to build the kind of relationships that will increase trust with your market, whether you're an IBM or whether you are a, you know bookkeeper, somewhere. You may be doing it in a different way, but it's the same principles, because no matter where you are in the market, you want to be memorable. You have competition, you have to be able to stand out. You want to be putting out things that are memorable. You want to be visible. It
Mhm.
doesn't matter what industry you're in. You've got to be credible. So there's just certain things that you have to do. You have to be speaking to the right audience, whether you're a one-man band or you're a 1,000 person entity. It's the same sort of principles. But sometimes businesses, whether large or small, they put all their emphasis and all their investment on brand
Right.
awareness. Oh, we want to be known. We want to be known. Okay, now you're known. Just being known is not enough. Things are so competitive now, and especially if you're marketing online, which everybody is. You've got to think about how to occupy the hearts and minds of the people you're reaching, and you've got to earn that trust. And a lot of that is by sharing content, sharing things of value, making them feel that you understand their pain points, meeting them where they are. So whether you're one person or 1,000, it's sort of the
So
same
basically, so what you're
principle.
saying is you have to speak into them.
Yes.
And so they want to hear the person, because the person is more authentic, saying
Hmm.
than just simply the brand. So if
Yeah.
you're the CEO of the organization, then you need to be speaking to that level to level communication and
Hmm.
communicating from that standpoint, from the overall standpoint of what this organization stands for, this company,
Yeah,
manufacturer, what have you, what it stands for, what it's about, its
exactly.
vision, from its vision standpoint. And then the
Yes.
people who are in the other arenas and the other layers, then they could speak from those particular standpoints.
Hmm.
Okay.
And it doesn't matter which. I mean, the truth. Consumers these days, um, maybe because there's so much choice, and maybe because people are more sophisticated as buyers generally. Um, there's a lot of people. There's a lot of power in maybe doing things like sharing your purpose. It doesn't matter what size of company. People care about where they spend their money.
Hmm.
um, share your values, share your mission, share your vision. There are companies that have successfully built, like, they're beyond customers, they're like fan bases. Ooh,
Hmm. Right,
okay.
right.
um and that kind of brand equity is like invaluable, and that's what differentiates you know the good from the great, I guess, would
Okay.
be the way to put it. Yeah.
So in this time, as we are building our brand,
Hmm.
and basically, it in a sense, for that brand authority, climate change becomes another one of those uh, issues that one of those things you're kind of competing with,
Hmm.
in that building. So how then does that, how are you going to, kind of put your brand out there, whether that be, amidst all of what's going on, and then, also in competing, like you said, with your competitors.
Right. Well, I mean, in terms of climate change, I think, first of all, any business, again, no matter what size, I bet that most businesses, especially, you know, medium and smaller businesses, are not paying as much attention as they should to climate change, to, like, climate risk and like disaster mitigation
Hmm.
generally. Um, so whether it's like just the basics, like having some kind of disaster readiness plan, if there is a flood or a fire, or some kind of natural disaster in your area and it affects your office, what happens? How do people evacuate even if no one is there? How do you keep up with communication with your customers and your employees? Are you backing up your data? Because, I mean, really, your greatest asset apart from your people is probably your data. Do you have everything in place to back up your data? I'm not sure that I suspect, I don't have any statistics on this, but I suspect that most or a lot of companies have not given this enough um, weight. And obviously, it can affect your brand, in the sense that, you know if you have an obligation to your customers and there's some deliverables you're supposed to meet to your customers, there's only so much you can say. Oh, well, we
Right.
had a terrible storm and there was an outage, and do you know what I mean? It's
Yes. Yeah,
you,
you
you
have to have those, and you're absolutely right, because many companies found themselves, just really backed up, and
Mhm.
during the pandemic when that came, and
Mhm.
moratorium came and said fine, that you could not, go out, you could not be at the companies. They did give the companies, like minimal people, come in, just to kind of, gather, like you said, the backup data. And you
Mhm.
need to have
Mhm.
that backup data, in another location, in an off-site location, so
Exactly.
that, in the event of that, the customer still had to be serviced.
That's
And
it.
with bank, because the one thing that customers, now it was very interesting during the pandemic, which, or it could have just as easily been, what happened, in Tonga, and what happened in the tsunami in Japan, with
Mhm.
that, those services were expected to continue. One of the
Right.
things that we expected was the fact that we communicate with them? Could they communicate, outside of the island? So telephone service was expected to continue. Uh,
Hmm.
Hospital services were expected to continue. So the same thing if, different fields that you're in, insurance companies are expected
Yep.
to continue.
Exactly.
They're banks. The
Yep.
bank because everybody, not one person, stopped using doing their credit card during the pandemic.
Of course not. Yeah, and you cannot say, "Oh, well, there's a pandemic." Like, no,
Right.
that's not
No,
that's
they have to
gonna
work.
work.
So yeah, so you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And many brands, I saw many brands that, they kind of bubbled up to the top during the
Yes.
pandemic.
Yes.
The brands and brands that you didn't think would actually bubble up, but they were kind of like the last man standing and everything they had, they were in place and ready to go. But they had a
Yeah.
disaster
Exactly.
preparedness.
They were in place and ready to go. They had the right sort of tone. They
Mhm.
had they showed empathy. You know, they treated their staff well. I mean, consumers look at all that. You
Yes.
know,
Yeah.
and some people fumbled.
Mhm. Well, yeah,
You
some
know,
people did. Some people fumbled and didn't have things in place, and it makes you're absolutely right. It makes absolute difference in the world, and there was a lot of customers who did change over to other people doing that because
hmm
of that very thing. Because they were able to get service from one company or another company during the time of crisis, and so that made a lot of people when it did come back online, or as it's coming back online, there a lot of businesses didn't come back online because of that.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I saw this a lot in the travel and hospitality. I mean, there were those airlines and companies that just took the losses, but really served their customers. And then
Yes.
there were those who were like, well, too bad. You're gonna have to pay, whatever, whatever, even though airspaces are closed and there's no flights.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
it's it's really about, so in that sense, as your part of your branding, part of your investment in your brand has now got to be, you know disaster related.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, it's 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 more and more likely that these things will impact you no matter where you are in the world.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, I mean, I wish COVID was our last ever pandemic, but
You know,
it's that's
that yeah. Yeah, that and I believe and I know this to be certain, and that is we can expect more with the climate changing.
hmm
That was one of the reasons why the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women chose climate change uh, for several reasons. Of course, because the climate is changing, but more importantly, because the change in the climate also brings with it the change in how the climate affects our bodies, our systems,
Mm.
and the different types of microbials that are just sitting. Um, Dormant, and now
Mhm.
because the climate changes, now that opens them back up. So,
Right.
like a volcano erupted. So, therefore, there's all types of things that now come out, that have been sitting for millennia,
Mhm.
up underground. Now that's outside of the ground. And so that's going to bring its own type of exposure to us that we didn't have before. And so,
It's
and then
scary.
it's scary.
Yeah.
It really is. And so your disaster preparedness has to always be, and like you say, the backing up of your data. We are living now in the digital age. We're
Mhm.
living in a point where we rely on data. We may not even realize it, but we rely on data every day. And
100%.
and just the information, and the way we exchange information, the way we pass information back and forth. So
Mhm.
we're not in a time, we're away from a time that we can dismiss this and not do
Mhm.
this or do this later. This has to
Yeah.
be done now. and you
Yeah.
have to invest in these types of things. I want to thank my guest, Nkiru Asika, with her, she's as women building authority. She's here to help you. Her organization, her corporation, it actually helps women to build their online authority so that they actually become a presence in their business, a presence online, and then that way they actually can, through that they grow their businesses. I'm going to
Hmm.
let her have the last word to you on this broadcast today and building a brand in the age of climate change. So I'm going to turn the microphone over to you and let you close us out.
Okay, Yvonne. Well, again, thank you. What I would say to anyone listening, and again, no matter what type of business you are in, no matter what sector, no matter what size of business or the size of your ambitions, um, in this age of climate change, and unfortunately, you know, the likely increase of disasters, as you build your brand, really take time to understand the impact, the possible impact of disaster and climate risk on your business, and think about how you can protect your brand. You have to think ahead and assume these things are going to happen. We can't live in a bubble anymore and just hope that, oh, everything's going to be fine. These things will happen. We may not know when, but we've got to be ready. And if you are not fully leveraging the digital economy, if you're not fully participating in the digital economy, if you are not, you know, marketing and selling online, you are going to be held back. Because I think in the pandemic, you saw a clear difference between the businesses that had some experience and a plan and a digital, some kind of, way of serving their customers digitally, and the people who were caught like deer in the headlights, frozen, freaking out, now have to figure out how to shift their operations, shift their services to the virtual world. Even though we're coming on stream now, as the pandemic sort of eases off, we pray, we are still in very much a virtual world. There's certain things that are never going to go back to how they were before the pandemic. It is we are in a new age. So if your business is not, digitally agile, if your business is not investing in the people and the tools and the support to help you grow online, you are setting yourself up for a possible fall. So that's sort of the final sort of word of warning. This all sounds very like doomsday-ish. I don't want to be a doomsday person, but that's just a serious warning that I hope everybody will take into account. But yeah, so keep focused on, when it comes to the strength of your brand, the authority of your brand. Really, it's about keeping focused on your customer, really understanding the people you're serving, the market you're serving, never taking them for granted, speaking to your market, not speaking at your market, um, serving your market, giving value in terms of, education, information, entertainment, also deepening the emotional connection. I don't care if you're selling thermonuclear reactors. There is some emotional reason why someone will want to buy a thermonuclear reactor. human beings buy emotionally, and then we rationalize, and then we use logic to rationalize our purchases, no matter what it is we're buying. So, as like people say, it's not about B to B or B to C. It's B to H, business to human, right? So no matter what industry, no matter what sector, you have to personalize, humanize, and treat your customers as people. People are much more sophisticated now than they were sort of 10 years ago as consumers. They will not be taken for granted. They cannot be fooled. If you're not being authentic, they will check you, and it will hurt you. So I will leave it
Build
there.
your, you end it there. Build your brand authority with integrity.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.